Today, my dear sewing friends, I would love to share with you 7 fun, easy, and practical ideas that you can sew with less than 1 yard of fabric. Now, this first video in the series is all about accessories and projects for home. And as always, I have a ton of real-life examples for you, so that way, hopefully, it will inspire you, get that creative spark going, and of course, get that sojo out, so that way you can use these projects either to minimize your fabric stash, maybe you would like to get a head start on making some gifts, and of course, to sew and sell as well. So without any further ado, let's get started. Now, this first idea starts off with these 3 projects, and at this point you might be wondering, what in the world is this? And we will get to that. We will definitely get to that. But I really wanted to start with a project that could be virtually for anybody and a very practical thing to make. And of course, we're talking about a bucket hat. The cool thing about it is that you can actually draft your own pattern, and I have a full video tutorial right over here, but you can of course use a purchase pattern as well. And another really great thing is that you can use a variety of different fabrics. Now, it might seem like it really doesn't require a lot of fabric, and that's true, but a lot of times you will need to line your bucket hat, so kind of account for double the fabric than what is visible to your eye. And as I mentioned, it supports a variety of different fabrics. So for example, this bucket hat was actually made from old jeans. In this first category, I also wanted to give you something that you can use your knit fabric for as well. And this is Balaclava, sort of like the winter alternative to your bucket hat. It goes over your head and fits quite snug, so that way you're nice and cozy during those cold and windy winter months. And here is a full step-by-step drafting and sewing tutorial, so that way you can make one for yourself as well. I think it's no surprise that tote bag made its way on this list. I think it's one of those projects that you sort of like think about right away. But I also have a couple of extra here that I would like to share with you because I did find them very useful over the years. So the first one is this little sort of like a simple rucksack with drawstrings. I made it for my little one a year, maybe 2 years ago. And it's not only fun, but it also makes for a really great and practical project. This could be a really great shoe bag as well. And it's sort of like a deviation from this idea is, of course, just a very simple drawstring bag that you can use for produce if you want to reduce the use of plastic. You can also use it to organize a lot of different things around the house. Now here I wanted to give you an extra idea for a little pouch, and as you can see, this one is made from a circle, and I've really loved that you can take the same principle and use it in lots of different variations of the same project. Now, speaking of organizing, now there are a ton of ideas out there where you can make your own little baskets. I even heard of somebody making a bread basket from fabric as well. Now, of course, you can make some sort of little trays and things like that. But one idea that sort of really stuck with me, that sort of proven itself, is this little bucket. And I think part of it is because it has handles. So at one point, we used it to store little toys for my little one. And then after she grew out of it, we used it to store little art supplies. And for last, I would say 3, 4, maybe 5 months, we've been using it to store crayons, and she absolutely loves the fact that she can take it, she can bring it over, we can color, and then she can put it back on her craft shelf. Now, just like with the bucket hat, you'll be using twice as much fabric because you need one outer layer and one inner layer as well. And needless to say that, of course, you can make it any size that you would like, any handles that you would like. And if you are a member of this channel, then you do have a template available for this size of the basket. So definitely check out your members perks, and thank you so much for being a member. Cushions, pillowcases, seat covers. I know it does not sound exciting. I totally get it, but I'm telling you, these are one of the most rewarding projects, because if you do make a pillowcase that you're going to sleep on every day, you're going to sleep on it every day, except for laundry days maybe. And also something that you're going to be seeing every day around your home. Plus, it will help you use up your fabric stash. And here I have a couple of examples, sort of like to channel your inner creativity. These were the cushions that I made for our couch in the living room. This was a block printing pillow that was sort of like a creative experiment. This was a pillow cover that was a gift for Christmas for my little one. One side are these Disney princesses, and on the other side we also have Disney princesses. And this one was also a creative experiment where I took a white linen and then I gathered some leaves outside and then I sponged them so that way it would create a beautiful outline like this. Of course, don't forget that we have some butt cushions as well. So this one, for example, is always there. It's something that I use every single time I sew. It's under my butt, so I know it's not exciting, but I actually used an old pair of jeans to make it years ago. And of course, here's the recent example of a seat cushion that I made for my little one to go on the kitchen chair. Now, before we move on to the next project, here I actually really wanted to mention that sometimes these not so exciting projects are the best way to practice a certain sewing skill if that's something that you need to do. So for example, a zipper. You can make your pillowcases with an exposed zipper. You can make your pillowcases with lapped zipper. You can make your pillowcases with invisible zipper. And therefore you can practice that skill before you move on to the garment sewing. So that way you will know that you have the confidence, you have the skill, and your sewing project is definitely going to turn out just the way you want it. Hello there. So I was actually just editing this video and I really wanted to add 2 extra ideas as a bonus to this list. Now, these ideas are not necessarily project ideas, but I truly think that this will help you to downsize your fabric stash if that's something that you're on the mission to do, because I know that I was on the mission to do that a couple years ago, and now I'm at the size that I'm finally really happy with that, because a few years back when I first started sewing, I was buying anything and everything that looked pretty to me because I didn't really have that knowledge of what fabric I like, what fabric is good for what. So after a while, I really ended up with a large quantity of fabric that I wouldn't use for any of the future projects. So here are 2 ideas. So the first one is really easy and straightforward, and that is to make your own bias tape. Now, as you know, I've been making my bias tape for many years now. I really don't like store-bought bias tape, and I think that homemade bias tape is so much better. I don't even know why would you want to buy a store-bought bias tape, but obviously we're all different, so you do what's right for you. But if that idea sounds good to you, then what I usually do is, if I have a yard of fabric that is in some sort of beige color or some sort of neutral color that would go with a lot of different garments, and then I might use this yard of fabric or half a yard of fabric to make my own bias tape. The fabrics that I usually like to use it are all sorts of cottons, like cotton poplin is really great for that. Also, any rayons, viscose, linen is sometimes good for that as well, but linen, as you know, can be a little bit on the rougher side. So take a look at what you have, decide what you're not going to use for any other projects, and then you can make a whole ton of perfect handmade bias tape for your future projects. So the second idea is for that dead weight fabric that you're stuck with. So let's say you have some fabric that you try to sell, maybe you try to donate that, maybe you try to pass it down to friends and family that also sews, but for whatever reason, maybe there were no takers. So you are quite literally stuck with that fabric. So in my case, what I did, I used up that fabric instead of muslin or instead of my mock-up fabric. So usually I do like to work with muslin for my test garments, because that way for me personally, I can clearly see the markings, the fabric is quite sturdy so it doesn't fray as easily, but oftentimes muslin can be quite stiff and quite heavy for the actual design that you're testing. So you can't really see the drape of the fabric because there's quite literally no drape. So when you have that extra fabric that you know that you're not going to use for any of the future projects, this could be a really great way how to use it up. Of course, save a little bit of money on that muslin that you would have bought instead, and also put that fabric into a good use. The next category and idea for this list, of course, is all about zipper bags, zipper pouches, even little wristlets like you see right over here. You can make a zipper pouch for your electronic devices. Of course, you can make a little boxy pouch like this. this. Of course, you can make a little storage for your cosmetic stuff or maybe your travel necessities. And I have so many tutorials on my channel for a wide variety of different zipper pouches. So nowadays I make them once in a while as gifts. So last year I made, I believe 10, maybe 12 of these for a group of kids, and I put a little box of crayons inside and paired it with a little notepad so that way they would have like a little kit for themselves. Now, most of the times woven fabric is used for pouches like that, and usually with interfacing. And it kind of got me thinking that what if you use knit fabric with really good, fusible, stable interfacing? Maybe that will work out as well. Because a lot of times we have these really beautiful knit fabric remnants with super cute prints that maybe you can't really incorporate into any other pieces of clothing that you're working on. But in this way, you can actually give them a really good use. As a reminder, if you do want to try this idea, of course, test on a fabric scrap first, see how it works, and then use that in your future project. This next category I think is actually quite underestimated because we look at the apron, we're like, ugh, you know, apron. But I think this is actually a really important piece of gear, I would say, because not only you can use an apron in your kitchen to protect your clothes while you're cooking and doing all sorts of stuff, but you can also use apron in a variety of other different settings, like for example in the garden or maybe while you're doing some other DIY stuff. So for example, this apron was made from an old pair of jeans, and I use it when I do my dye baths for fabric. I use it when I do block printing, painting, anywhere where I can stain my actual clothes. And denim doesn't really soak through as fast as regular cotton would. It still does with time, but it does catch majority of the things that would ruin my actual clothes. This one I made for my little one, I would say about 2 years ago now, maybe even more. And I know that the pattern is quite busy, so you can't actually see. But from this side, I can tell there's like a marker stain, some tomato sauce stain and stuff like that. It gets used, it gets washed on a regular basis, and it has been a really great help to sort of give the child that ability to be creative and not worry about getting dirty. And it's not only about protecting clothes, but also a lot of kids don't actually like the feeling of getting dirty. So this really helps. And this one was made just recently from a ton of little pieces of fabric combined all together. And this is my new kitchen apron. Of course, you can use up those beautiful cottons for your aprons, even combine different prints. Maybe you want to use your Cricut, if you have one, to put some sort of really funny saying on top of the apron, and that will make a really beautiful and thoughtful gift. Since we're talking about aprons, another really great category that has a ton of ideas for using of that fabric is of course the category of kitchen and anything that goes into that. And that of course includes napkins, tea towels, pot holders, table runners, and table covers. Now, just like with the pillowcases, these kitchen projects are probably not the most exciting, but in my opinion, they're probably the most useful. So over the last 2 years, I made quite a few projects for the kitchen, and we use them every single day. So I've made a set of reusable napkins, and these have been really handy. Now, also over the last few Christmases, I've made different sets of linen towels, and I've got some really great feedback. People love these, and with linen, the more you wash it, the more softer and absorbent it becomes. So these are really great. Oven mitts and pot holders is another really great and useful thing to make for your kitchen. I've done it both for our home and for others as gifts as well. And I know that you guys absolutely love to make bowl cozies, which could be another really great idea. Now, one thing that I would urge for you to think about when you're choosing a project for your kitchen is to make sure that you're using appropriate materials plus appropriate fiber content, because not all fabrics react well when they're in contact with high heat. So just make sure that you keep those two two things in mind: using appropriate materials and appropriate fabric for the kitchen setting. Now, if you're looking for gift ideas for this upcoming holiday season, then this video is right for you. I'll show you 10 really fun and creative stocking stuffers that you can sew, and a lot of them have been proven to be a success over the years. So click right over here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye!